What is going on, everyone? What is going on? Welcome to this week's episode 74 of the STS Guys. I am Jeremy.
And I'm Scott.
And we are the STS Guys, a weekly podcast where we sit around, shoot the shit, and talk about anything geeky, nerdy, and cool. What is going on this week, Scott?
Yeah. So as you noticed, I was gonna make the comment we are definitely a little bit shy on the intro there. I'll say there's a very good reason for two of the folks not to be here is because we're gonna talk about a movie and they were afraid that we were gonna spoil it. So Larry and Nate did not join.
Well, let's be honest. Like I said, we typically, like I said, when we talk about movies, we spoil the shit out of it. So,
Yes.
I honestly don't blame them whatsoever. I'm looking forward to them seeing it. I'm looking forward to getting their reactions next week. If they don't see it by next week, I think that gives us carte blanche to talk about it no matter what. Just because at that point in time, you've had a week to see it. You got to see it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So just with kind of timing, there is nothing else for us to talk about today but Captain Marvel. But just for everyone who's going through and worried here, Jeremy and I are going to try to break our tradition and go as spoiler free as we possibly can, given that movie is only like a day and a half old.
I give that. I don't think that's gonna last. I literally think it's. Well, we're gonna try. We're gonna try.
And if at the end we will throw up a spoiler alert.
No matter what, though, I said I am gonna probably throw, like I said, a little spoiler alert on here right now. So spoiler alert. I said you may. I said if you don't want to hear anything about Captain Marvel, I said you definitely want to tune in the audio version of the podcast at a later point in time, because I said we may touch on some of that spoiler territory, especially with a couple of things, and we'll get into those later on.
There are some pivotal moments in this that you have to talk about that you can't talk about without spoiling at least a little bit. So,
well, first and foremost, though, let's just talk about our actual experiences with the movie. So as everyone knows, like I said, I recently moved, and so normally, I said I'm used to like going to like the AMC theaters, or like I said in Arizona, I said we have Harkins theaters, and it's you have the reserve your own seats, and you have theaters like that. We have there was one Cinemark in Arizona, but here in Texas, like I said, the Cinemarks are everywhere, and they actually have like the high end Cinemark theaters here with what they call D-Box.
Mm-hmm. So that one Cinemark theater here in Phoenix does have those D-Box seats.
Does have the D-Box seating?
It does, yeah. So it's it is very it is a very jarring experience. So you're fresh off of it. It's been a while since I've been in it. Let everyone know what these D-Box seats are, though, because these are the craziest way to watch a movie.
So D-Box, I said, if you don't know what it is, like it's literally watching the movie in 4D now. And so basically you have the action happening on the screen, but then you also have, like I said, the seats that actually move along with the movie. And there's certain movies, like I said, where it's amazing to see, like I said, movies in the D-Box experience. Since it was a brand, I said I'd been to a couple like D-Box experiences before, and so once I found out that they had it at this theater, I'm like, you know what, let's go ahead and try the D-Box. And this was probably one of the best movies to see in D-Box, just because I said when you have those bursts of speed when Captain Marvel is actually like flying around, it actually throws you back in your seat, and like I said, it'll vibrate the seat, or when she's getting like punched around or she's punching other people, like it's like knocking you from side to side. It's quite the experience, and you can actually adjust it on your seat of how intense it is. And so like the very top setting, it's pretty intense in regards to how much it throws you around.
Like through the movie. Yeah. So the movie I saw was the third Nolan Batman. Dark Knight, right? Yeah. So I saw that one. And when he's driving the bike and the seat's like tilting when they're like riding it, like that was the thing that got me, is like right off the bat, you see like the motorcycles, and they're amazing. Like I love the D-Box seats.
No, it was definitely an experience, and it's one of those things to where I'm definitely looking forward to having that type of experience again in a movie. I think it has to be, like I said, depending on what movie you see. I think that's going to be what, like I said, I'd probably purchase those seats for. But this was definitely a good movie to actually utilize those D-box seats.
Oh, see, the D-box seats are the best for rom-coms.
Ooh,
Yeah.
I see what you did there. Well, honestly, too, like I said, honestly, my entire Cinemark experience was actually pretty awesome. So like I said, I hadn't been to a Cinemark in years. So even though we had the one in Phoenix, I said it was far enough away from my house. I never actually ended up going to it. I always ended up going to, like I said, the local Harkins or the AMC. Those end up actually being closer to the house. But so this theater is literally right down the street from my house, my new house, and so we ended up going there, and then you get greeted when you walk in because they have the full bar and everything else like that. But then their large popcorn tubs. Like I said, I wish I had it near me right now. I would show everybody. It's actually a metal Captain Marvel tin. Like it's like this giant tin of that almost looks like a small wastebasket, but it's like an embossed Captain Marvel tin. Popcorn.
Here, take your trash can of popcorn and get out of my face.
Yeah, I'm like, they just gave me a trash can of popcorn. This is amazing. Not only is it a trash can of popcorn, but it's a Captain Marvel trash can of popcorn.
It's branded.
It's a branded trash can. And you know what? I said within the nerd cave up here, I said, you know, I even mentioned to my wife I was with, I'm like, you know what? This is gonna be perfect. I'm like, I'm using it as a trash can. So it's actually gonna be used as a trash can. The post pop.
There you go. They're like, you look like a man that needs this later.
Definitely. I said, yeah, you could use this popcorn.
Yeah, like take this tin.
You
No, that's awesome. I love advances in movie theaters and kind of the things that they've done. Because I went to a brand new theater that just opened in Chandler.
Ooh, do
to
tell.
go see Marvel, which as the first one. So we've all been to those theaters, at least all the STS guys tend to go here to the theaters that have where you hit the button and they actually have a wait staff that comes out. You can like order beer, food, like the full bar ones, right? Beer. So those have been pretty common. But the one that we went to was a brewery slash theater. It's called Flick's Brew House. Just opened up in Chandler, and apparently there's quite a few of them out there. But the greatest thing is when you first walk in, you feel like you're in like a brewery. Like you see all their like the fermenting tanks and all the stuff. Like they're actually making beer on the premises that I'm drinking while I go into the theater. It is absolutely amazing, and I fully support more readily available beer in movie theaters.
So is it almost? I think we were talking a little bit before the podcast. So you're saying it's almost like a BJ. It's like where it's actually a full on brewery.
Yeah. So like full on brewery, like legit, like bar, like they have tables like booths set up so that if you show up before your movie and you don't want to go wait in the theater, you can actually go sit in a restaurant and wait for, get your food and stuff before you go into the movie.
See, that there is cool. Just because I think kind of to your point, Scott, like I said, the advances in movies, like I said, has literally made the movie enjoying experience that much better. And I think that now, like I said, as things have progressed, like I said, going to the theater, as I said, it's not a cheap thing, and I think that with the streaming services and being able to kind of offer the content that they do and be able to offer actually decent movies now that they do, I think they saw a lot of these streaming services as a real threat. So the only way to combat these is to basically create a whole nother level of service, at the movies to make the movie going experience that much better. I can tell you now, I can't tell you the last time I actually went to a theater where I didn't have an assigned seat. And it's only because I seek out the assigned seats because it's that much more of an enjoyable experience, not having to actually wait around and to actually know exactly where I'm going to be sitting. Right. I can show up 5 minutes before the movie starts.
Yeah. We've all been there when the movies used to come out. Like imagine like when the Star Wars like secondary trilogy came out to go see that movie and not be in the front row. You had to show up like an hour
No,
an hour before the movie starts and wait in line, hoping that like the 10 people in front of you don't take the good seats in the house.
I have a vivid memory of seeing Star Wars Episode 1, and it was the weekend that it came out. We was a Me and my dad waited in line. I think for a good 3 hours. It wasn't even opening night. We waited 3 hours because basically they'd filter you into, and this is before like super huge megaplexes too. You had like 8 screens, 10 screens, the max. I said once they got up to 20 screens, I said, oh, that was like unheard of. But I said it was a 10 screen theater to where you had a line waiting outside, and like I said this was in the Arizona summer, of where you were waiting outside for like 3 hours just to get in, and it's a crapshoot of where you sat. So it was actually more beneficial for you to be in the middle of that line than the beginning of that line, because the beginning of the line got filtered into the front rows. And so I said it was a nightmare experience, but it was an awesome experience at the same point in time because you're also seeing Star Wars.
Right. But yeah, it's just one of those things where like showing up to a theater to have to wait and like hope I get a good seat, because it could be in like you go with your friend and be like, I really just hope we can find 2 together at a certain point, like it is insane. So yeah, like there's maybe 2 or 3 remaining theaters that I know of that don't have assigned seats anymore, and I really don't know what their holdup is.
Yeah, so
like
exactly, because we have so I have literally 2 theaters within 5 miles of my house right now, and they're both Cinemarks. One of them is reserve your seat, and one of them's not. And so I automatically, you know what, it's literally not even a half mile more than the other one. I'm like, I'm driving the extra distance to go to the one where I can reserve my seat.
Yeah.
Just because, like I said, it's that much better of an experience.
Yeah, no, I actively avoid the ones that I know don't do the reserve seat because I'm like, I don't want to deal with it.
No.
Unless I know it's like 3 weeks after a movie comes out and I'm like, I'm the only fucker in that theater, then I'll go to the other theaters. But at any point in the first 2 weeks of its run, you'll never find me in one.
Not gonna happen. So I have to tell this other funny story too. So I said the previews come on, and so obviously I said it's opening week for Captain Marvel. Parents are bringing their kids, this, that, and the other. Normally, so you're sitting there watching the trailers. There's no reactions whatsoever. You would have thought like they were giving away money in the theater. It was some of these kids were so excited when a certain trailer popped up. Frozen.
Isn't Dumbo?
No,
Frozen. Oh, Frozen 2.
Frozen 2. I said they had a little trailer for Frozen 2, and I said all these little kids were just going bananas in the theater.
Dude, I could not imagine. I just go to my daughter's daycare and hear them like the kids are still to this day like just will randomly break out into Let It Go. Like a sequel to that movie is. Just say this: Disney is literally printing money with that sequel.
Oh yeah, it was nuts. Like I said, you would have thought, like I said, like Santa Claus had just come to town, and like I said, he had brought presents for all the little boys and girls in the audience, and then they were all getting like Lamborghinis.
It's Oprah. That's Oprah.
Yeah, get a
Lamborghini, and you get a Lamborghini. I'm 5.
It was nuts. But you know what? Enough about, I said, the theater experience. Let's talk about the movie itself.
The movie.
Like I said, and before we even get into the movie, let's talk about the opening credits. Like the opening credits itself, like I said,
that Stan Lee thing, yeah.
So it's I'm not gonna say this is even a spoiler. It's opening credits. It's not a spoiler. It's actually all over the internet right now.
Oh yeah.
Like if you haven't seen it, definitely go check it out. It's basically they open up the movie with basically the whole scroll, the scroll of the flashes of the different comics and stuff like that.
Let me just do this. The din 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 din, that thing.
Yeah, it was
the din din din. Yeah.
Scott, I love your impersonations and your voiceover music. Like I almost didn't want to do the fire again this week just so I could hear you fire yourself.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, so anybody who knows, it's that beginning crawl thing, right? That's usually comics from the movie that you're watching, or I should say, yeah. So that flap through, but yeah, this one was it. I tried to get them all. Was it every cameo,
It
or
was
was it?
every cameo that Stanley's been in, and then even like a couple like outside shots too, like of just him, like yeah, like in some of his iconic
Mhm.
outfits. Like so, for example, him in his green sweater that he wears or always
Yeah.
wore.
And then
Um,
there's that it ended with that super famous photo of him like with the one arm behind his back, like leaning on his desk.
yeah.
Like that, it ended with that super iconic photo of Stan Lee from like the late '90s or mid '90s.
So in the theater that I was in, like I said, I actually ended up starting it, just because like I said I ended up clapping for it, and so I'm the guy who started the clap in my theater.
You get
Yeah, yeah, I'm the guy who started the clap in my theater just because like I said I think it's awesome that they did that. Like I said, it's like
yeah.
it's a good tribute to Stanley, and
Well, again,
honestly,
like
they could keep every single intro like that from now on. I would be completely happy with that.
yeah. So well, just imagine like it's kind of another area for Marvel to kind of pimp like a character and things is those opening crawls that you see like that they have like it kind of shows that character has a history, right?
Yeah.
And it kind of brings it up, and that they were like, no, with Captain Marvel, like this is Stan's kind of time. Like to take it away from that character, it takes a lot from to be able to kind of sacrifice that to give to somebody else. So it was super cool that they did that.
It was super cool they did it, and honestly, I said I'm surprised it was actually on this movie. I was kind of expecting them to do something special.
Endgame, yeah,
Yeah, I thought they were. I thought they would actually done it in Endgame, just because that's kind of the wrap out of this journey
right.
of these last 10 years, and I thought they would have done there. But I think it's cool that they did it now. You know, hey, you know what? In memory of Stan, I said right after that. Like I said, and then everyone in the theater clapped. So I'm the guy who started the clap, the annoying clap. But you know what? It was worth it because you know what? Stanley's the man.
Stan is the man.
Dan is the man. But okay, so before we get into the actual rest of the movie, can we just talk about his other cameo real quick? This is for talking Stanley.
Yeah, yeah. Let's do it. It's like,
So it wouldn't be a Marvel movie without a Stanley cameo, right? And so, and I think this one holds a special place in my heart just because for two different reasons. One, it's Stanley, of course, but then two, it's the specific things that he's doing in this in order what he's of how he's basically portrayed in this cameo.
yeah,
So this is the only cameo that he's actually been in where he's actually been portrayed as Stan Lee.
yeah. I was gonna say, he's actually Stan. He's not like Stan the mailman or the delivery guy or Stan the security guard. It's it makes it a point that on that bus was Stan Lee of Marvel Comics.
Yeah,
Like distinctly that's who he is.
yeah, and it was, and so, and the reason why you can tell that is specifically because, like I said, it also it helps date the movie. So, like I said, as everyone knows, Captain Marvel takes place in the past, specifically in the year 1995. Something else that basically was also came out in 1995 was also a little movie by one of my all-time favorite people, Kevin Smith. And what movie is that? It's Mallrats. So, so Stan Lee is actually reading and preparing for his Mallrats cameo as his cameo.
Right.
Uh,
He's rereading one of his kind of big lines like finishers from that
yeah. So
his speech.
yeah, he's really, yeah, because he does a speech to Brody in Mallrats. So if you haven't seen Mallrats, definitely go check out Mallrats. Like I said, it's an early Stan Lee like cameo. Like I said, from like I said, the awesome Kevin Smith. Like I said, I'm biased in regards to that, but you know what, Mallrats is an awesome movie.
It is.
I
It's
don't
one
care
of my
what
favorites.
you say. But it's like I said, Stan is himself in that movie, and he's giving a speech to Brody. And like I said, it's Stanley on the train practicing his lines for that movie. And I just thought that was an awesome thing. One, to kind of date the movie, and two, like I said, just a homage to basically Stanley as himself, the character.
Yeah. It's just hearing him say, true believer and all that stuff. as he's like practicing, it hit the thing where it's like, holy shit, it's just Stan. Like that one's actually Stan Lee, and it's utterly amazing that they threw that in versus kind of making up like he could have been the just a person that gets turned into yours is a scroll for a second, or as a disguise. I thought they were going to probably go that direction, like when she's chasing it, like he's just going to be somebody, and then he's going to turn out of Stanley into the scroll and run like a different direction or something. But to actually have him do that was awesome.
No, I thought that was fantastic. Small little homage, but like I said it was a very impactful homage. And I honestly, like I said, I was reading all the Twitter reactions today from Kevin Smith that he finally has an MCU connection. Like, and if you've ever seen Kevin Smith like watch like any of these Marvel trailers, you know that he typically gets
Loses it
really high, and then
and it kind of like fangirls, I guess. Like, I don't know what's the best way to put it.
Yeah, because then he ends up crying, and like I said, because he loves and loves this genre and loves this medium so much, and so the same thing happened once he found out that I said he had the connection to the MCU now with Mallrats. Like I said, there's this Twitter photo of him all teared up because of the Stan Lee cameo.
I would too if something I wrote ended up in a movie like that. That's huge.
Yeah.
So,
right, so let's actually talk Captain Marvel now. Let's talk the actual movie. So before we get too deep into it, I said let's go ahead and start off with our STS Guys reading. Scott, I'm gonna kick it to you first. Where do you think where was this in terms of movie in the MCU for you? Like, so you don't have to give it like the exact number. Like, you can just go like low, mid, high. And then what was your overall rating?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so range wise, if I put this mid high, I guess I don't know if that's a good way to put it. Like it's middle, but the top of the middle, right? I think
of the
top little section. Like maybe if I watch it a couple times, it might obviously that's going to move. But as of right now, after watching it once, there was a lot of stuff I liked about it. To put it like mid high, or like the lowest one on my like top.
No, I would absolutely have to agree. So in terms of score, what would you score it?
I'm going to give it a 3.5.
3.5. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to go 4.
You are. So.
I said kind of like you. This is in out of my say, if I had 5 favorite movies, this would probably be number 5.
Yeah. Right. Like
it's my. I said it's up there, but it's not like oh my gosh, it's like it's amazing.
Right. Let me go through the one thing is, and this will kind of be the start of where I think we can kind of go from. The reason why I dropped it down from like a 4.5 down to a 3.5, it was too much of an origin story for me, and I think it's too late in the game to be able to try to pull that off and kind of have a movie. To me, this felt the same as kind of like the Doctor Strange or some of the Thor. Like, you're showing me the origin. Yeah, it's out of order a little bit, but you're still just kind of going through this, like, with the flashbacks to how things happen. Like, it was too much of that, and I really wanted more of basically the last 20 minutes of the movie. I wanted like a full-on movie like that.
Yeah, which, like I said, I think kind of knowing going into it, I think I knew we weren't going to see like that last like 20 minutes to a half hour. Like, I know it wasn't going to be all that. I definitely see your point though in regards to like it being very very origin heavy. Russ is asking, are we going to go into spoilers? We're going to try not to, Russ. I said we're gonna try not to do spoilers. So
we'll let you know. Well, if we're going to do spoilers, we'll wait towards the very end, so at least we can get through a decent amount and get some info out there.
But in terms of, like I said, the actual movie itself, like I thought they did a really good job for people. Like I said, who aren't. I said, to me, like I said, it was it kind of basically gave me the kind of the initial feeling of Guardians of the Galaxy when that first came out. They did a good job of explaining the character and giving an origin story for a character that no one knew anything about. Let's just put it out there. No one knew who Captain Marvel was.
Right.
Like no one. Like I said, Iron
Outside
Man.
of the comics,
Yeah,
no, yeah,
the
like
comics, the people don't know who Captain Marvel is.
right.
I honestly, I said I was walking into the theater and people thought it still had something to do with Wonder Woman. They thought it was a sequel to Wonder Woman. Like walking into the theater, I overheard someone's conversation, um, and I think they did a good job of basically, you know what, giving this character, like I said, an origin and explaining that origin and doing that. Honestly, the thing that got me, I think why I like this movie so much wasn't even actually even Captain Marvel. It was basically her relationship with Fury,
Yeah,
and I think they did such a good job of basically utilizing Nick Fury in this movie.
right. Well, I don't even think it's Nick necessarily Nick Fury. It's a movie about different people's relationships, right? So you have her relationship with I'm just gonna say Jude Law's character, right? You
Mhm.
have her relationship with Maria, her former I guess co-pilot, like best friend kind of thing. And then that relationship with Fury, and they're each very different, but like intertwine a little bit almost. And it's those relationships that I think did give this movie a lot more oomph than a lot of the other MCU movies.
No, I have to agree. I think, like I said, I was kind of hoping because I know it's that we were very mixed on kind of how we saw like Black Panther and kind of the introduction of that story. Like so for me, I like this leaps and bounds above Black Panther. And I think the reason why I liked it leaps and bounds better is because I think there's a lot of things that work good in this origin story. Like putting it in the past and putting it in the 90s was perfect. Um, I think it works, and cause I think it's almost like they took like the music soundtrackness of Guardians of the Galaxy with the awesome mixes from Volume 1 and Volume 2,
Right.
but then put it with like 90s music that we all like so loved and grew up with, and just hearing it through the soundtrack and hearing the things and literally when like I said when she came out wearing a Nine Inch Nails shirt, I'm like that's amazing. Like
Yeah.
that's
Well,
shirt. Um,
and you got to look at like who would have thought that we'd see a Marvel movie that, let's face it, this is, if not make $1 billion, this is going in the direction to make that, right? Like it's gonna hit that.
do
Who
you,
would have thought that we would have had whole garbage Nine Inch Nails, uh,
Nirvana?
Nirvana, and No Doubt. I think I already said that one. Yeah, it's fine.
I know you didn't. So
And all of those as the soundtrack to a movie,
yeah.
right? Like that, it's unheard of. Like I would never have guessed outside of using one of those songs, like weirdly ironically, but never to hear all the variation of those different songs that were in this movie.
And I have to say though, I think that the music elevated this movie that much more, and I think the use of the of the soundtracks. I don't think it's necessarily trying to copy. So we were talking last week with the Umbrella Academy, how so they try to use kind of the same kind of Guardians of the Galaxy type, like fun and hip soundtrack in order to kind of make things work, and it kind of worked for what they were doing, but not
Not always.
not
Yeah.
always. I think this, especially with them dating it back in the 90s, worked out perfectly.
Yeah. It
And
was it wasn't in your face.
no,
Like we're
yeah,
doing music stuff now. Like, which is what I think a lot of, we'll say, nostalgia bound movies try to do, is like shove that super in your face. Maybe one time the music kind of ramps up, but I will forgive it because it's awesome.
yeah.
That they kind of,
Talk about the No Doubt section.
I am talking about the No Doubt
Oh yeah,
section.
yeah. No,
I thought that was a little out of place, but
I agree with that.
yeah. But everything going on was so badass during that scene that I was like, all right, I'm gonna forgive you. You like whatever fucking song you want, put it in here. It works. Um, But none of the little like here's your nostalgia hit like happened with the music.
No, no,
Right? It was
it wasn't forced. It
it
was
was
there wasn't a lot of forcing of the actual music to fit the scenes.
right. Just we'll talk one scene. At one point, she goes into like a bar, but they like muffle the music, and you still know what it is. But when you hear the music, it's coming out of the jukebox in the bar, and it makes sense. You're like, oh, that fits that they would be playing that song from the 90s in a bar. You know, like it 100% fits that scene, and it is a cool kind of relevant song, but it doesn't detract out of the scene at all, and it makes sense why that soundtrack's there.
No, I agree with that, and I think that I said that kind of one other aspect that I think I really respected about this movie was a lot of times that we get the trailers that basically give out a whole lot of information about like I said, what the movie is about and how it ends up turning out. And I have to say, the trailers did a really good job this time of basically not ruining the movie.
Right.
Um,
Every bit of dialogue in that trailer, I'm pretty sure, is within like the first like 5 or 10 minutes of the movie.
Absolutely, yeah. No,
Like, yeah, like they did a really good job of isolating the shit out of that little like section to be like, this is what we are, or this is what it's about, but then show the cool stuff. But they gave zero story away.
no, and I honestly probably one of my favorite things like from the trailers was kind of seeing that extended out actually in the movie is when she crashes inside the Blockbuster. Like I said, I'm not spoiling it, it's in the trailer. So she crashes in the Blockbuster, and I said that automatically dates the movie. That automatically dates the time period of what they're in because they're VHS tapes that are on the shelf.
Right.
Like I said, I was like, I can't wait for this movie to come out on Blu-ray, just so I can when she's walking by like the rows of VHS tapes to see kind of what tapes are there. Like,
Yeah.
there are certain movies that I saw. I'm like just kind of making sure that it was period accurate. Like, so for example, so she's walking by, I saw Hook and I saw Last Action Hero.
Right. That's the Last Action Hero is the one that picked it out. I was like,
Yeah.
that is they actually
Yeah.
like
And
built a
then,
blockbuster with things from 1995.
yeah, and then
Okay.
I said, and then hey, coming soon, True Lies,
Yeah.
and then the standee for True Lies. Like I just think I think it worked really well.
Right. Like I never would have thought that I would see that too. Like I'm saying I never would have thought. There's a lot of that with this because I had way different expectations going into it. I knew it was going to be cool, but it was way cool. It was cool for other reasons. But yeah, what we'll say Disney property references a True Lies.
Yeah,
Like and actually has that movie like as like a front and center like shot. Like that is utterly amazing.
it really was like that. And I think I said one, like I said it dates it, but then two, like I said, it's just it. I said it made me smile. Like I said, it made me smile when I said like I said, there's a True Lies reference in the movie. Like I said, that to me is like okay. I said I'm in for a good time now, just because I said they're going to be talking. This it's they're not forgetting the little details that kind of they make a movie awesome.
Right. Right. They could have just had the just blockbuster videos in there, but that wouldn't be right. Like, you knew you had to put the sleeve out on there till you knew what movie it was you were renting.
Let's talk kind of another thing real quick. Let's talk kind of like I said how they weave the future events into this movie. And so we can do this without spoilers. And I think probably one of the coolest things. So this, if I'm not considering this a spoiler, I said if you consider this a spoiler, you obviously haven't seen the end credits of Infinity War. But I said let's talk about the pager.
Okay.
So Nick Fury's pager at the end of the, you said you can see that he's paging Captain
Marvel, right?
Captain
That's
Marvel
yeah.
at the end of Infinity War. So I like that in the movie that whole pager itself wasn't just basically at the end. Oh yeah, here you go. Just contact me. Blah blah
Yeah.
blah blah blah. It's actually referenced in a few different ways throughout the movie. And then at the end, like I said, how it changes to be basically the way to contact Captain Marvel.
Right. The fact that you hear the classic
Beep, beep, beep,
like
beep,
beep beep beep
beep, beep, beep.
thing chip, and it's like you hear that, you're like, oh, that dude's got a pager. It's I forgot cell phones aren't a thing, or they are, but they're the big huge fucking bricks at that point. So to see it, and then at one scene to watch somebody physically to go do the like look down and page thing, like that's awesome. Like they showed a pager and somebody actually using it correctly.
Well, like I said I said that's another thing that helped date the movie. But I said it's I like that it was an integral part of the movie where I said it just wasn't a convenience in order to contact Captain Marvel. I said,
Mhm.
you know, for the next phase, basically part two of Infinity War with Endgame.
Right.
So
So there's the other tie-in though. I'm not going to call what it is, but we'll talk the fuel source.
yes,
What that was a kind of pleasant surprise. That I because I really was thinking that it would not show up in this movie.
so I was a little confused by that. Just for a couple of things, because I started trying to play around with timelines in my head.
Hmm.
Because that fuel source, as you talked about, has shown up in another movie in a different time period. Um, so I would just try. I started. So once I saw that, I started tracing it back to basically okay, how to get from trying to map it out from how it got from one place to another to another to another. Uh,
Right.
so that part was that part was interesting, and I said like, next week when we can actually like talk spoilers, I can't wait to talk about that because
Yeah.
I'm curious kind of what your exact thoughts are on that.
Yeah. Because I got to go back. I'm going to go back because there's, uh, geez, how many ones? At least three movies that I think I need to watch to figure out
The lineage
the
of
lineage of everything that's on there.
yes,
I'm with you on that one. Like that's why I brought it up because I was like, where did it come? Like, how does it get there? And does that mean that we might have more info that we didn't know about other people potentially for future parts of that, or as part of Endgame? It, I think next week is a great time to bring that up because I there's a couple of theories I got.
yeah. And there's a couple theories that I have as well, and I said I'm curious to bring those up, and I think that so Larry's in the chat. What's going on, Larry? Nate's in the chat too. So Larry says, listen, next week we should do MCU movies ranked next week. I think that's a great subject for next
Uh,
week.
we had one that just has to have a couple added to it. So I'll update it
Yes.
and send it out, and we'll all do one, and then we'll come back in and uh, we'll give out some rankings as to where we stand.
Yeah, I because we've had since the last time we've ranked movies, so we've had I think 3 or 4 movies.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think the last time we did it was Black Panther. And I know we've had 3 movies come out, three or
no,
four movies come out since then. Where
yeah, because
it's
Infinity
definitely
War wasn't on there either.
yeah for me it definitely mixed it up. The last few movies.
Yeah, it's going to be
Um,
very different.
yeah, it's gonna be very different for me. Um, let's talk about like one thing that it did really well in the movie too was like I said the comedy aspects. Um, the comedy aspects of this movie I wasn't expecting.
Mm-mm.
Um, well, especially with the way that the movie started. The movie starts very actiony, very serious, um,
Very Jude
and
Law
very Jude Law. Uh,
with his steamy alien eyes.
yeah, throughout the the very beginnings of the movie, and so I'm like, okay, this is going to be the pace of this movie. But then towards the end, like I said, it changes. Like I said, there's some lighthearted moments, and there's some actually comedic moments as you progress throughout the movie. And I said, without giving anything away, the cat, I said, is basically an awesome character in this
Yeah,
movie. So Goose the cat,
Goose the cat.
Goose,
If you're familiar with the comics, it's Chewy
yeah,
the
Chewie
cat
in
in
the
the
comic.
comics, but Goose the Goose the cat cat um, is the best. And honestly, who would have thought when they had Clark Gregg and Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury back in the movie, and that Nick Fury would be like one of the main sources of comedy for the movie.
Yeah.
Like that's what really threw me is, he's such a serious character and all these other things. And when it goes back in time, he's not like, I don't know, grizzled enough, or he doesn't know everything. Like, he kind of by the end of the movie knows everything at this point. I love like young agent Nick Fury. I love him.
Now, Paul, let's talk about that real quick. The de-aging process that they did for Nick Fury, like
Spotless.
it was spotless. They had that technology down. Like it literally looked like Samuel L. Jackson from Die Hard 3.
Yeah.
Like
No,
it
it
was
young. So, but we, in the same token, I have to say there are some scenes with Coulson that looked like they needed a little bit more time.
Yeah, well, so I'm glad he brought that up, just because there's a couple of Coulson scenes where he looks like a Ken doll.
Yeah, it looks like, but there's other scenes with him that it looks great.
Do that face again. That's exactly. I'm gonna focus the camera. That's totally for the audio listeners. Scott is doing a dead-on impression of the Coulson face right now.
Right, because it's like the CG doesn't like catch any like contour in his face or whatever, so it like locks his face in like his like serious grumpy pose. And yeah, it's a little off, but at no point does that happen with Fury. And I get it because he's in a majority of the movie, and you see him a lot. And it was very weird that at no point did I really go, "Oh yeah, that was clearly de-aged." Like I can see why that happened, or like when they like what process they were doing for it.
It was amazing. Like I said, you couldn't tell that you were looking at old Nick Fury, but it's young Nick Fury. Like,
Right.
It was
because what Samuel Jackson's almost 70 at this point.
I gotta look it up. Just because I gotta see how old he is, because they did such a good job with that. So he's 70 years old.
Okay, I called it.
70 years old.
Right, but looks early 40s in this movie.
Yeah. So yeah, early 40s, late 30s, maybe. Like I said, it's nuts. Like if you've seen him like in any other movies, like or like honestly anything, like he looks completely different.
You know what? He looks a lot like his character in The Long Kiss Goodnight.
You're right.
With it's because it's the hair, but yeah. So if you want to see The Long Kiss Goodnight, just look up Samuel L. Jackson in that movie. That's as good of looking as what we have in this movie, and you wouldn't tell that there's probably 30 some years difference between the two.
No, absolutely. So there are some things that you're going to find out. So if you haven't, I said, if this isn't on your list or radar of things to see, it needs to be. Like I said, so you definitely need to see this movie. One, because you find out, like I said, it interconnects into the greater. So even though it takes place in the past, it interconnects into the greater MCU in such an awesome way. It has the very early foundations of S.H.I.E.L.D. It has the very early foundations of Nick Fury. Like I said, you get to figure out, like I said, we're not going to tell you here, but you get to figure out how Nick Fury loses his eye.
That
I guarantee you
is amazing.
Nowhere near what you think it is.
No, everything it's more awesome. Like it was one of those things when it happened. I did the audible like, yes, like it was great, yet unexpected.
Yeah,
like is the best way I could put it. Like you would never know that's what that is, and that is something we'll have to bring that one up again next week when we talk more spoilers, and all four of us are wrong, because I want to get everyone's opinion on that.
No, because I thought that was a great way to handle it, and I think it was great. Tyler Calvert's in the chat. What's going on, Tyler Calvert? He's like, I love the way Captain Marvel looks when the same when she comes back 20 years later. So, like I said, obviously she's going to be back. I said back in Endgame, and she's going to be looking pretty much exactly the same. I think it probably has to do with a lot of her powers.
Right.
Speaking of that, there are 2 end credit scenes.
Yes, 2.
So make sure you stay through to the end. The mid credit scene is it's one of those not made for the movie. You can tell they clipped it out of Endgame.
Yeah,
so it's a clip pulled directly from Endgame, kind of like how they did when they were going to introduce Giant Man Ant-Man into Civil War. Same thing. Like I said, that same clip, like I said, type of clipping where they had Falcon and Captain America with Bucky talking about like, hey, I know a guy we can call when they're talking about Ant-Man.
Right.
So same type of like movie clipish type thing with Endgame. So they take a clip out of Endgame, and that's the mid credit scene, and then there is a more lighthearted end credit scene that's unique just specifically to Captain Marvel itself.
Yeah. Now, and Tyler says, just to go through, give Goose the Cat a show on Disney Plus. I would watch the living hell out of that. 100%.
Yeah, I am hoping we get to see some more Goose.
Goose is an amazing character in the comics, and to see it brought to life again, Chewie, I should say, in the comics, but we're gonna say Goose just to make it easy.
Which
it shows up in the comics quite a bit.
So I'm wondering why they didn't go with Chewie. So it's not like that Marvel doesn't own the rights to Star Wars now.
Yeah,
because
Chewie's I wonder.
So that's where the name Chewie in the comics comes from.
Yeah. So I just wonder if it's another way to date kind of the movie and make it a little bit more relatable to the characters.
Because they're saying like Top Gun with Goose and
right. Yeah. So it's like Carol Danvers and Maria Rambeau are pilots in this one, and they can't fly combat missions because back in the day, women could be pilots, but they could never see combat, right? So for them to kind of bring that part up, that hey, this is the only way we get to fly. It was right around the time when Top Gun came out. What was that, 92?
I think Top Gun was before that.
Oh, maybe it was late 80s.
I thought Top Gun was in 89.
Yeah, so it was not too far beyond to when that would have been still relevant for people in that job. So I think versus a Star Wars reference,
86.
Wow, we're way off on that one. But I think it would be the time when somebody that flies fighter jets would name their cat Goose, right? It makes sense.
No, I agree. Like I said, I just like I'm just wondering. Like I said, if they did it the whole Top Gun reference for specifically that. Like I said, I'm just surprised they didn't go with Chewie just to kind of like hey, guess what? So we own Star Wars, so we can go ahead.
I think it's they don't want to acknowledge one major property and another major property. I really wonder if they're just like, we don't want to try to, because those fans are going to make weird fan theories if it's the same.
No, but kind of going back to, I said some of the different events in the movie. Like I know I alluded to this before as well in regards to the trailer. The trailer, like I said, they cut that trailer extremely well. For like I said, if you think like, hey, you know what, I already know what's gonna happen because I watched the trailer. I can honestly say, like I said, this is one of those things where the trailer did not mess with the movie storyline at all.
No. Opposite of Spider-Man Homecoming.
Yeah, complete opposite of Spider-Man Homecoming. So basically, in Spider-Man Homecoming, like I said, you know exactly what's going to happen in the trailer. And and in Infinity War, like I said, they redacted some different elements out of the trailer and put new elements into the trailer to make it you kind of miss tricky there. This one is just cut. Like I said, it's cut and spliced. Like I said, all those scenes are in the movie. It's just cut and spliced in a certain way to where it tells a different story.
Right. You going into it, I thought I knew what was going to go on and I was completely and utterly wrong. And I was shocked by it, like honestly, because I did not foresee, especially considering it's the Kree and Skrull war that it's referencing, and you have these characters like, all right, like we're gonna see a war going on, but the way that that conflict goes and the attitudes of all the different people involved are so much different than what you would expect going into it that it was like, huh, that was different. It was good different because I think it was better than I would have trying to think of like how I thought they would have done it.
No, absolutely. No, in terms of let's go with two things you liked about the movie and two criticisms that you had. And so I'll kick it off. I'll go with two things I liked. I said honestly the homage to Stanley. It's probably one of my favorite things in the movie. And then two, like I said, that last 20 minutes of just pure action was amazing. The two things I didn't like were, one, like I said, you touched on one, Scott, which was the Clark Gregg de-aging. When they did such a great job with Samuel L. Jackson, it was weird. It was almost like the Clark Gregg thing was like Agent Coulson was an afterthought.
Yeah, I think it was, or they just were like, don't waste too much money on that one.
The second thing that I didn't like, and maybe it was just the theater that I was in, and I said I'm curious to see if you thought this as well, was the voices of the Skrulls and their movement of their lips. It's almost like they weren't moving their mouths when they were talking.
Yeah,
there's like some really bad prosthetics.
It was like Muppet like talking prospects like, at some point.
They're not talking like this, and this is like talking.
Ben Mendelsohn did a pretty good job of like
enunciating
with his mouth, but some of the other characters are just so this is what you're saying? Like it's like lips are like locked in one position.
Okay, so like, it wasn't just me. So okay.
No, it wasn't just you. That wasn't one of my complaints though, because I'm like, fuck it, they're aliens. Like, and in the comics, at least they like tone down the ass chins that they have in the comics. So,
well, I think they tried to basically really divert it away from like why is Thanos green?
Yeah, like green Thanos with pointy ears that can turn into everybody. So here's one of the things that was really weird that I liked, and this is going to sound really weird, but I was actually really impressed that they have a movie with a female lead where they very rarely put pressure onto like, look, she's a girl and she's doing things. Which they do that in a lot of those movies. This one was
Wonder Woman did that.
Wonder Woman, yeah,
did exactly that.
Did the thing where so this one was they didn't really shove it in your face like this is a woman. It was this is Captain Marvel. This is this person who's strong and going through their story. There never was that moment of like, ha, I'm a girl and I can't do anything, but look, I can do stuff better than you think. Like no one really underestimated the character or made it that point of because she was a woman.
No,
I appreciated that.
No, I appreciated that too, just because I think that it didn't try to shove PC and like I said the word like I'm all I said and I think it's great. I think I think it's awesome that this came out on International Women's Day, and I think that it's great that it shows that a female is in power, and I said, and we get strong women, and I really love that about this movie. I like I think I love it the fact that it's more. It's just that it's not a focus on aspect. It's not a focus on aspect of the movie because she's a woman. It's like she's powerful because she's powerful. She's not powerful because, like I said, it's because we're trying to put the shoebox within. She's just as strong and she has just as many capabilities as any of the other men superheroes. But she's a woman. Like
any other superhero, right? And it's cool that they're just like, yeah, this is a hero, like one of the first. And the other thing too that I really liked about the movie. So my number 2 is just the way that at least they kind of speed the story along and what's going on. Like you have those things, then you have these beats of like things and how they used her, like kind of the missing memories and everything to kind of piece together. And every time the story changes, you kind of see where all those changes came from. I like that way of storytelling, and I thought they did a really good job of using that.
No, I think that especially when they bring stuff back, and like I said, there's no, and I think I like movies like this is movies that have no open loop still, they were able to everything that they did, like I said, all the flashbacks had a purpose, and there wasn't basically a flashback in there just for the sake of having a flashback. It was all the flashbacks had a purpose, and honestly, like I said, so kind of to our point before in regards to basically her strength as a woman, there's this one scene um that I said that when I said she's in a battle with, I'm just going to call them the antagonist. She's in a battle with the antagonist,
With the bad guys.
with the bad guys, and I said she's down on her luck, and then the quote is basically she's like, "Oh, you're only human." So not basically, "Hey, you're a woman. You're not." I said it's because you're a woman. It's because you're this. It's because you're human. So basically involving us all, and then there's all these flashbacks that are then shown at that point in time of basically her basically having strength from different facts of life and different ages
Right.
she was at. And I think it was that scene that was so powerful, and it showed basically the power of that the women can have in the actual Marvel Cinematic Universe. Just as a whole, that's really illustrative of, hey, this is, like I said, another amazing superhero as a superhero, but then then it also has the benefit of also being a woman as well.
100%. So, dislikes though.
Laid on.
It's not bad, but I don't know if this is this kind of the spoiler. Okay, so just go through here. Everyone is looking for him. I'm not going to say what happened. This is really hard because the way that they changed around the story involving Marvel in this was not bad, but I don't know. I wasn't like super into or on board with kind of the changes with that because it's 100% different, like motivation, who the character is, like everything about Marvel is different. But I would have liked some more of like the more comic book kind of nature of that character.
No, I agree. I think that aspect. I think very good job with
Right?
non
Not spoiling that. Yeah.
spoilerly. So here's what I'm trying to understand too. I I'm honestly, and I'm hoping we kind of get an answer in Endgame. I was expecting at one point in time, like I said, we still haven't seen what has happened to Nova Corps.
Yeah.
Um,
Why? Why? Because Nova should have been around, right?
Nova should have been around. Because that is this, like I said, if I'm not mistaken, that's the symbol on like her chest, isn't it? Isn't
No,
it?
that it's kind of
Like
it's so they took like the Nova symbol when they redid her with like the mohawk,
yeah,
and they made the symbol. It looks like the Nova, but it's her
yeah,
Star Force
yeah,
one. But it's still like it's a lot like the Nova symbol, but not quite.
yeah. So I think, like I said, I wanted to kind of see what happened to Nova, no, so the Nova Corps.
I really hope that that's a character we get in Endgame,
I'm hoping so.
but
I'm not holding my breath, but I'm hoping so, because I think that in the entire MCU, I think that's probably the biggest miss right now
yeah.
is you introduce basically this legion inside Guardians of the Galaxy, and then have just left it on the table.
Right. Especially considering you've only shown the base level people and not like the actual like head soldier folks.
Yeah.
So the other thing I didn't like, and I don't know why, is some of the idea of who's scrolls and who's not, it gets really like some of the times I was like, how the fuck would they become that person? Like, at what point did they get the opportunity to copy them and like to be able to take over? Like, there was a few. We'll have to talk about the specific ones I'm talking about uh when we go, next week when we can actually talk spoilers and stuff. But yeah, like there's a few that I was like, wait, what the fuck? Like, I don't think so.
So we also saw kind of a couple interesting things as well. So we also had some other surprises that kind of popped up. I said, and these aren't surprises. These aren't spoilers. Like I said, we knew that these actors were going to be in there. Lee Pace came back.
Yes.
So we had Lee Pace come back as Ronan the Accuser.
Can I say something about Ronan though?
Yes.
Where's his goddamn ink bath thing? Because I like that made him look so much cooler than the high school principal Lee Pace that we got.
Yeah, it was completely different. I was kind of shocked that didn't happen. So I'm wondering, like I said, if that's I said I don't think we'll ever get an explanation of what what happened there.
Maybe. So here's what I hope. I do want a sequel to Captain Marvel because I want Captain Marvel in space, right? Like I want to see that as a sequel. And if you place it between,
this is getting a sequel.
Yeah.
Let me just check real quick. Just because I think it's on pace to what 150 million this weekend.
Yeah, no, like I said, this is going to be another $1 billion like movie. So my hope is that we get more explanation about, how does Korath end up working for Ronan, right? Like, we have Ronan because Korath is also back, right?
Yeah.
Juman Hansu, or I'm awful at his name, the name, is back as Korath. So we actually have two returning characters from Guardians of the Galaxy. So I'm really hoping that we get maybe a like early 2000s version where it's Captain Marvel in space, Guardian style.
Well, and I think this opens up a good area too, is where you can have a sequel without necessarily having to have it connected.
Yeah,
because you now have like I said, what 23, 24 years, because Marvel timeline follows real timeline, right?
So yeah, so I mean, if you're looking at between like Captain Marvel and then like Stark showing up, is like, let's see, like we'll say 95 to like 2005, so it's like 20 years.
20 years, yeah.
Yeah, like, or yeah, like no, 10.
5, yeah, 10 years.
Yeah, 10 years. So 10 years coming in. So I mean, you have 10 years that you can use to your advantage to say we can set a sequel here. But with this one, you can do a whole like, I mean, the character can fly through space, like change it and take it out into, have her visit nowhere or something,
Yeah, well, so all these spots that we had inside Guardians, like I said, we can now retouch, and so maybe we get. I said that's when we get our Nova Corps story or our Nova story.
Right. And it would be cool to have her on Xandar and get a Nova tie-in at least to say, hey, she's now helping the Novas, and it happens in space while we don't have it. So
they haven't gotten the today's numbers yet for Captain Marvel. So it's only still through the 8th. So it made 61,382,000 as of Friday. But they just got the foreign box office numbers in through Friday at 127 million. So far, all box is 188 million dollars
in 2 days.
In 2 days,
2.5 days.
2.5 days. Yeah, this movie is going to dominate. And I hope that it does. And just because, one, to your point, like I said, I want to see a sequel, and then secondly, and I think that we need more women superhero movies, and I think this one does it. And just for the fact it's a superhero, it's a superhero, and then I said it's a benefit on top of that she's also a woman.
Yeah, I would love to see like a mid 2000s take on that. And you could have the character walk by, or have, a kid, this Star-Lord is the have a run into the Ravagers at some point, right? Like
You could bring back Yondu.
you bring back Yondu and have all those characters, because it's before
Yeah.
anything. So I have the hope that we get something like that we get some more characters coming back, and it can take place before anything happens. And this was a really good writing that, yes, they're the energy source, right, was kind of a surprise, and I don't want to say it, but it could be something that doesn't actually have to tie into any of the future movies. You can say, here's the second part of the story, and here's these characters that we're bringing out. Use that to bring back dead characters that would have been around at the time. But yeah, I will say this. The energy source, it's going to make me go back and watch other movies to figure out where the hell it came from. We said that earlier. Yeah.
No, I'm going to be doing that. So I think that kind of wraps up this. Like I said, because I don't think I could talk about it much more without going into the spoiler territory.
No.
I have to say that I'm proud of us that we can officially say we did a spoiler-free review.
Yes, the first time that you and I have done one of those before.
Yeah,
so
of Captain Marvel. So like I said, just to kind of give a recap of scores. So I was an STS Guys score 4 out of 5 for me, and then Scott, you were
3.5 for me.
3.5 out of 5 for Scott. So before we go, we just want to update a couple things, quick news. So make sure to stop by shumistore.com. That is shumistore.com. Use code STS Guys there. You can actually save yourself 10% off checkout. It's really cool. Like I said, I actually just got my order in of all of my Marvel Studios 10-year anniversary pops. So the gold pops here. So look at this, nice little pop protector. Shumi ships inside these pop protectors, and he has a mitten box guarantee. So that is the benefit about ordering from Shumi Store. So definitely save yourself 10%. They just launched a new app as well, and that so our code also works on checkout in the app. So be sure to check out the app. I said Shumi drops awesome exclusives and sales on the app, and also flash sales. So that you can also use code STS Guys on the app to save yourself 10%.
It works. So while you're on shumistore.com, you're already online. So why don't you jump over to go check us out on Instagram at STS Guys, Twitter at STS Guys, Facebook, the STS Guys, and I am Scott from the STS Guys. That was for you, Larry.
Chilling like a villain. That was for you, Nate. Scott, good job chilling. One thing that we also have going on right now is we also have our Super Mega Smash Brothers giveaway. We have we're giving away a couple pops. We're giving away an amiibo. We have a Nintendo gift card as well. And how do you enter that? You can go to stsguys.fun. And actually enter that. So we're running our competition through Gleam again. Just go ahead and follow the simple steps on Gleam. Get yourself multiple different entries to be able to win that. So you can get that by doing everything from going to our Facebook page and liking that, to watching a YouTube video, to going to our Twitter page, or visiting our Instagram feed. You're already doing that stuff anyway, so you might as well get some content entries out of that to be able to win some awesome prizes.
And we've never had a winner that has only one entry.
Yeah,
they've always had people that have had multiple over multiple time frames.
So we will do that drawing live. So when that contest does end. So you just want to make sure to go to stsguys.fun in order to enter that contest. So that contest ends here in 27 days. So we extended this one out a little bit. Just wanted to give everyone else a chance to enter. So you have 27 days left to enter that contest. And then after that, I said we might be running another contest.
Ooh.
Okay. Mystery contest.
Mystery, yes. And tune in next week, because I'm here's the ultimatum that I've given up. Next week, we're talking Captain Marvel again. This time, spoilers. Larry, Nate, if you've made it this far, get your ass to the theater and watch that, because I'm telling you right now, if you haven't seen it yet, you're gonna get spoiled.
Yeah, it's been hard. Like I said, we did good. We
You
did
did good, but we have so much more to talk about.
there is so much more to talk about. We have so much more to interact with and honestly get the opinion of the other half of the STS crew. So for episode 74 of the STS Guys, I've been Jeremy.
And I'm Scott.
And we're the STS Guys. Have a great night, everyone.
Bye.